Yo, what is up guys, it's Ghost here, welcome back to another video, and in this one, I wanted to do a bit of a guide for the engineers, how the launchers work in the game, how reactive armor works and armor plating works on vehicles, which munitions you should be using on your tanks and IFVs, and how to do the most damage possible. This is kind of a hidden feature in the game, it doesn't really fully explain it to you, but I'm going to do my best to do that for you guys here in this video. As always, if you enjoy the content here on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Battlefield 6, and as always, thank you guys so much for your ongoing support, really appreciate it. Alrighty, so here we are in the test range, and the first thing to note here is that the armor plating on these vehicles, guys, it ain't just for show, it actually does work, and I'm going to showcase this to you guys by getting in the IFV here, and here we've got the NATO tank, so it's the Abrams, then we've got the Bradley, which is the IFV for NATO, and then finally we have the AA, which is the Cheetah. And the first thing to notice is that where you attack the tank, which surface of the armor you attack it on, is going to have a difference in how much damage you do. Now, to start with here, I've got the armor-piercing rounds on this IFV, and you're going to see if we hit the tank square in the rear, it does 32 damage. If we hit the IFV there, 32 damage once again, and if we hit the Cheetah, it actually does a little bit more, and it's important you remember that, because that will actually change. If we then come round to the side, you're going to notice that this number drops significantly. So instead of doing 42 damage, it's 32 on the Cheetah, and if we come round to the front, it is now 21, so even less. If we hit the Bradley in the side, it's 17 there, and then if we come round to the front, it's 17 as well. And the reason for that is because of the angle, and we'll get into that in a second. Come around to the Abrams, that's got even thicker armor on it, guys. 11 damage there in the front, and round on the side here, we're doing 19 damage. So this is kind of interesting, because you'll notice that you can do the same damage to the tanks and the AFVs in the rear, but when it comes to the side armor and the front armor, the tanks are by far the most well protected. So once again, we've got 11 damage here, and on the IFV we have 17 damage, and then of course it's even more on the Cheetah. So that's sort of the ranking order of the different armors. And clearly what you want to be doing, no matter what munition you're using, is trying to hit them in the rear. Now, something I would say that's even more important, because a lot of the time when you're an engineer, you just take the RPG shot, or if you're in a tank or an IFE, you take the shell shot that you can get depending on what you're looking at and where the target is, but the angle also matters a lot in this game. So we're getting 32 damage if we hit them square on. As soon as we come to an angle like this though, now it drops to 25. If we increase that angle even further, it's dropped to 14. So now we're doing, well, like almost half, in fact less than half of what we were doing before. And it goes the same from every different point of view here. So if we come and take a look at the side here, we've got 19 damage, increase the angle, goes down to 13, and at this sort of an angle, it's all the way down at 10. So when you choose to take your shots, the position that you choose to take them from has a massive bearing. Now, what about the turret? The turret here, you're going to notice on the tank, doesn't really matter that much, but if you hit the actual gunner turret up here, the secondary gunner, this only does 10 damage, so I would say that the best bet is always to go for like the main body of the tank, especially because like if you hit some of these areas here at the top, they're a lot smaller, you know, they're a lot more difficult to hit. You can see that like on some of them, there's like weak spots. So on the IFV there, we're hitting for 40. If we come and hit the turret, it's 15. If we hit the side of it, it's 15 there. But the turret, for whatever reason, it does 40 damage. But, you know, if you're firing an RPG at this, it's quite likely that you're maybe going to overshoot it, or you're going to go to the left or the right and you're going to miss it. So, even though that is a bit of a weak point, you can see it's gone back down to 14 here from this side. So there are definitely like a few bugs within the game with certain models for vehicles. I would still recommend that you just shoot them in the body. Now, I've switched over to the main battle tank here, guys, to show you the difference between smaller munitions, like with the shells that we had before, the armor-piercing shells that we had in the IFV, and the bigger armor-piercing shell that we have in the main battle tank. So once again, if we come and shoot the tank, we're doing 330 damage, which is going to mean that's going to be a 4-shot kill. For the Bradley there, the IFV, we got 330 as well. And if you remember before, the Cheetah took more damage than these two. But now, it only takes the same. And I've tested this with RPGs, I've tested it with the Heat Shell. It is the same. The damage for all three of them in the rear is exactly the same. I'm not sure why it is that the Cheetah takes more damage from the IFVs than it does from RPGs and these larger munitions. But let's just try it from the front here as well. So the Cheetah, we got 169 damage. The Bradley, 169. And then finally the tank, if I can get my angle there, only 114, in fact. And if you remember, the tank has the thickest armor of them all here. And again, same thing applies, glancing blows, you know, if you come and shoot the tank from a slight angle here, it's only going to do 103 damage. Straight on from the side, 196. So you're doing almost double the damage just from the angle that you attack this tank at here, even though you're hitting it on the same surface. And by the way, just so you guys know, almost all the vehicles in the game have 1000 HP. So if you do like 200, that is 20% of their HP. Now, with those two mechanics in mind, let's talk a little bit then about which munitions are going to be best for taking out which vehicle. Because you would be forgiven for thinking that the armor-piercing shells are probably going to be the best for every type of vehicle. But that's actually not the case. Now, if you didn't know, on tanks, you can press 4 to switch between two different types of shell, I should say. And there's 4 different choices. You've got high explosive, you've got armor piercing, you've got multi-purpose, and then you have guided shells as well. And here, if we go and take out some of the armor, and we switch to the APF STS, which is the armor piercing shell, you're going to see on the Bradley here, in the rear, square on, we do 330 damage. If we now switch to the high explosive shell, we only do 242 damage. So that makes sense, right? They're heavily armored vehicles, so armor piercing shells are going to do more damage. However, when it comes to the helicopters, high explosive shell, 566 damage, meaning you can two-shot this vehicle, and then the armor piercing round here actually only does 375, making it a 3-shot. So it's not always the best principle to just put on your armor piercing shells and run with those. And the same goes for the Jeep and everything else. Like the lightly armored vehicles or the ones without proper plating on them are going to be more susceptible to explosive charges, explosive shells and that sort of thing than they are to armor piercing. Same thing with the shells in the IFV here. So you're going to be better off with the armor piercing rounds like I have here on the armored vehicles, but the high explosive rounds for infantry and all of the lighter armored vehicles. So that's how you want to be thinking about your offense when you're in armored vehicles, but you also want to be thinking and keeping these two mechanics in mind when you're on defense. So let's say you're pillaring, right? I'm attacking this tank here. This is the sort of angle you want to be giving him, right? He can only attack the front of your tank or the side, and on both of them, he's going to be hitting you at an angle, which is going to be cutting the damage in half. So really, you can make a lot of the damage in Battlefield 6 negligible if you attack your targets from the right angles. And again, if you get a really nice shot on here perpendicular on the side, you're going to be doing way more damage than he is. So if you're this guy, what you want to do here, he's like facing this way to me, he would then want to start attacking you, but swivel his tank round like this. I really recommend decouple your aiming from the turret. Whoa, I'm not sure what happened with that graphical bug there, but that's going to allow you to keep your turret aimed at the target and swivel the tank round like this. This is so important in this game to have enabled in the options so that you can reposition and make sure that you're taking the least amount of damage possible. Same thing, if so, like an RPG, like an engineer pops up over there and he's going for your rear, try to at least aim at him like an angle like this. Like, don't show him you know, your butt full on, because if you've ever been in a situation where you've gotten two-shot by engineers, just like a quick 1-2 tap, and you explode, that is the reason why. It's because they've got you at the most vulnerable angle. And that segues us nicely into talking a little bit about the various launchers available for the engineer. And I really recommend, once you unlock it, going for the RPG and using that, because it just has the biggest damage potential. So again, if we take a look at a square shot in the rear of this tank, 594 damage. So as you can see here, That's about 60% damage. You can easily two-shot this thing if you're quick about it. And again, with those same principles in mind, if we come and do an angled shot on the Bradley, and remember, this will take 594 damage from the rear if we hit it in the same way as the tank, but from an angle here, only 314. So you're literally talking about cutting the damage of the RPG in half if you angle the armor correctly. And the same holds true for the engineer, right? So even though you may start off with this sort of an angle, it may just be worth running out into that road and getting a better angle before you let off that RPG shot. Now, there are some other launchers available. The one you start with here is the MBT-LAW, and this is a good, like, noob-friendly weapon. I don't necessarily recommend it, and it's for a good reason. You're not going to be able to take advantage of the RPG and where you aim it, because it always does a top-down attack. If you notice there, it happens quite quickly, so it's hard to see, but basically, wherever you shoot the tank, it is always going to do that same 294 damage. So if we go and shoot the Bradley from the rear here, 294 damage, and that's because it's actually going up in the air and doing this homing top-down attack. So it doesn't matter the angle, doesn't matter where you shoot from, the MBT-LAW just doesn't have the same damage potential as the RPG. In fact, it's doing half as much as a single RPG shot does in the rear. So that leads us on to talking about the Javelin. Now, in my opinion, the Javelin in Battlefield 6 is honestly kind of a weak choice. So, as you might know by now, it locks onto ground vehicles. It does a top-down attack, much like the MBT-LAW, for 350 damage here on MBTs and also on IFVs. Let's actually see if it does any more to the Cheetah or to the AAs. Yeah, a little bit more on the AI. I think it actually got a little bit of splash damage there as well on the Bradley. But the reason I don't really recommend it is because it only does a little bit more damage than an MBT-LAW shot, around 50 or 55 damage more, but you only get 2 of them instead of 3 of them. Now, coming back here, you can also laser paint aircraft with this if you weren't aware. And that will then enable you to lock onto it with the Javelin, which is extremely powerful, and you can see there it does 1,000 damage, so it's going to one-shot pretty much any lightly armored vehicle except for, I believe, the transport helicopter, because that one is the only vehicle in the game that has around 1,200 HP, not the normal standard 1,000. But outside of that, it's not really worth taking. I mean, yes, you can fire it from really, really long ranges. It's even going to zoom here. There's pretty much no way you're going to miss with it as long as it's in an outdoor area. But the MBT-LAW is already pretty foolproof. You get more of them, and they do almost as much damage as the Javelin. But without a doubt, I would definitely recommend rocking the RPG. Now, there is also a guided launcher, which is basically Battlefield 4 SRAW in Battlefield 6. Because of the insane assignment grind for this one, I haven't unlocked it yet. When I have, I'll do a video on it. But I've already seen footage of this, and sorry to, get anybody's hopes down about this one, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. It's basically the same armor system as the tanks have, right? So wherever you use it, wherever you hit the tank, you want to be hitting it in the rear, you want to be thinking about the angles, but as far as the tracking capability, it doesn't really do that much damage. Like, it can't one-shot helicopters out of the sky the same way it could in Battlefield 4, so I wouldn't really get too excited and rush out the door trying to unlock it ASAP, because I still think the RPG is going to be king. Alright, towards the end here, I just wanted to show you guys this because I'm sure that some of you are shouting out, what about the reinforced armor perk that you can select? And what this does is increases the armor on the vehicle. You can get this both for the main battle tanks and for the IFVs, but it comes at a cost. It reduces your maximum movement speed and the overall agility of the vehicle. I don't personally use this, and I'm going to show you why. Not just because of the penalty to the movement speed here, but if we go and shoot these tanks in the rear, and if you recall, we were doing 330 damage. We do have the armor-piercing shells here once again. Now we're doing 281, and it's going to be the same here on this tank as well, because they both have the better armor plating. Now, what you'll notice, though, is that that is still going to be a 4-shot kill, and even before, when you're doing 330 damage, that's still going to be a 4-shot kill. It's almost a 3-shot kill, but still not quite. And then once again, if we bring out the RPG here, before this was a 2-shot kill, it was doing about 591 damage, I believe. Now, if we shoot this vehicle in the rear, we're doing 505. So, yes, it's been reduced by the superior plating, but it's still gonna be a 2-shot kill in the rear. And it's the same here on the Bradley. So for that reason, I would say that the better armor plating is kind of a waste. Like, yes, on one hand, it is going to reduce the overall damage that you take, because no matter what sources of damage you take, the angle that they're from, where you get hit on the vehicle, it's going to be less than without the better armor. But it's still, you know, if somebody gets in that position where they're behind you, you're still really going to be just as vulnerable as you were before, with the added penalty that now you're moving a lot slower and you aren't going to be able to get out of dodge as quickly. Like, you can see just how much slower the IFV here is than normal. So there you go, guys. Just wanted to put this in a quick video for you because I'm sure these are some sort of semi-hidden facts that people don't really know about. I know a lot of you guys watching the channel are Battlefield veterans. You've played all of the titles and you will have probably just assumed this because you know how Battlefield games worked. But if you learned something new in the video, or even if you just found this entertaining, leaving a like down below is always appreciated. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Battlefield, and I will see you all in the next one.